Good morning. You are listening to the National Real Estate Auction Radio Show. I am your host, Doug Dennison, and we are broadcasting from beautiful St. Augustine, Florida, the nation's oldest city at WFOY 1240 AM studios. Through the power of the internet, this program is being streamed worldwide on 1240news.com. The show will also be archived on RyleAuctions.com as they are the sponsor of this program. Additionally, this show will be posted on YouTube.com. We're going to be talking about real estate auctions, past auctions, upcoming auctions, different real estate markets across the countries. We've got a lot of topics today, and to help us out, we've got several real estate leaders calling in. We're going to have a call from Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. Going to have a call from Washington, D.C. We're going to be having a call from Georgia, so looking forward to it. Before we start, the radio show mission statement is to provide an educational experience for listeners in a promotional format for auctions across the country. And this is, I think, going to be the start of our 18th month on the air. Again, Ryle Auctions is the sponsor, and I want to tell you a little bit about them. They are a national real estate auction firm that started in 1936. They do online auctions, on-site auctions, and ballroom auctions. They have offices in Florida, New Jersey, California, Georgia, and have alliances with auctioneers and real estate brokers across the country. They do government auctions, bankruptcy auctions, and much more. They have a big auction schedule coming up, so check out their website at www.ryleauctions.com, or you can call them at 800-323-8388. I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. next week. I've talked about this for a few months now, that they've got 14,000 government surplus properties up there that the president started to talk about more than a year ago, actually back in February of 2011, and we've been working on trying to at least give our input as real estate professionals and auction professionals. This will be the fourth time I go up to Washington, D.C. to meet with congressional leaders, government offices, government office representatives, and I'm looking forward to, again, giving input. H.R. 1734, which was passed, Congressman Jeff Denham was the sponsor. We'll be having his office call in a little bit later, but they were the sponsor, got it passed. It went to the Senate. They're kind of tweaking. I'm hoping that something will come out of this. Congressman Denham is working on a new bill, and we'll get the information on that to try to find out what's happening up in Washington, D.C. As you know, the elections are coming up. It's getting hot and heavy. The fact that this 14,000 government surplus properties, I mean, I think it should be an election issue. Though it's a no-brainer. Both sides of the aisle should be all for it. It's the selling of government surplus properties and taking the tax burden off of us. Hey, let's go to the caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hi, is this Douglas?
Yes, this is Doug Dennison. Is this Wally?
Yes, it is. How are you this morning?
Well, I'm fine. Hey, thank you for calling in. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your firm, and what you do.
Okay. I was born in Palm Beach County, and I've been practicing law here since 1997. My primary areas of practice are real estate and estate planning. In regards to the real estate, I basically do residential and commercial. We do real estate closings. A lot of the foreclosure issues that have come up, we've been handling those for some time now. And we assist clients really with any type of real estate matter that they may have from the estate planning side, wills, trusts, probate, powers of attorney, guardianships, anything along those lines. Our firm is located in Palm Beach Gardens, and we have 4 attorneys. We have attorney Jeffrey Pepin. Jeff specializes in litigation and trials and complex commercial litigation, shareholder derivative suits, probate litigation, contract and business disputes. We also have another attorney. Her name's Annalise Mooring, and she practices primarily in family law, condo representation, guardianship and business litigation. And, of course, we have attorney Paul Burkhart, who moved here in 2004 and opened this practice. And Paul's got quite a bit of experience with corporate business law.
Well, very good. It sounds like you got a great gang there. Not sure I had told Paul, but I'll tell you, I lived in Palm Beach for 11 years, 12 years. I actually ran the Boynton Beach Kai's real estate office. I was a district sales manager there for 4 or 5 years. So I know your area very well, and I'm glad you called in. Tell us about the market, Wally, and it's Wally Baldwin. Is that correct? And you're
That's correct.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about the real estate market right now, because I've been hearing good things from Miami. I'm not sure what's happening in Palm Beach County.
Well, from my perspective as an attorney, what I'm seeing, there's definitely sales going on. There's still the foreclosure issue, which is quite prevalent.
Mm-hmm.
From what a lot of realtors have told me, there seems to be a lack of inventory in the Palm Beach County area for homes in the $350,000 price range and under. So the market does seem to be coming back possibly a little bit. Everybody's got an opinion on it. What I'm seeing are banks are getting somewhat better about agreeing to short sales. One of the key concerns for anybody that's doing a short sale is whether the lender will waive their rights of deficiency. Deficiency is basically the difference between the loan amount and what the lender recovers at the sale.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more complex than that, but that's a simplified way of looking at it. So, for a person who's trying to do a short sale or even just sell a piece of property in this market, there's multiple issues. The other thing I see, too, are people buying properties that are REO properties that are owned by banks, or they're bidding online at the foreclosure sales. And, it can be a little bit risky if you're not informed as to some of the issues when you're buying a foreclosed property. It can be anything from existing liens on the property that weren't properly foreclosed out to mold issues, because a lot of the homes that have been taken back by the banks have been sitting for quite some time. So it's kind of a buyer's beware market, and it's always helpful to have an attorney in that situation.
Absolutely. And again, you're located in Palm Beach Gardens. Palm Beach County, I'm going to say, you tell me, maybe 5, 7, 8 years ago, switched their foreclosure procedure from a representative that would come out on the courthouse steps to an online bidding process. Is that correct?
That is correct. I remember going down years ago, and they would hold it downstairs in the courthouse in a cafeteria-type room there. And, due to the volume of the foreclosure sales, they've switched over to doing it online in Palm Beach County. And, sometimes what I'm seeing are people that purchase homes at a foreclosure sale online. They really haven't done their due diligence. Sometimes they don't realize that a community association has foreclosed the property and not the bank, and they buy it without looking at the title and end up taking a piece of property subject to a mortgage, and it essentially is worthless. So, there's a lot of issues out there, and that's some of the things that we help people with. More and more people are hiring us to assist in helping them determine whether there's issues with a piece of property or whether they're okay to go forward. So we're a small firm. We've got 4 attorneys, and you can call in and speak with an attorney. We've got 6 paralegals, and try to give quality representation in a cost-effective way.
Well, I know Tara has been very helpful in getting me information about your firm, and so it's very important to have a good team. That's for sure. Tell us about, again, if you're involved in that, and I'm not exactly sure. I know you've got 3 other attorneys, but on the foreclosure area, and I'm kind of interested in this because we're actually doing something, doing a proposal up in the New England area, and every state is different, and I wanted to get the feedback on at least Palm Beach County and the foreclosure process. How long is it taking to foreclose a property?
Well, what we're seeing are condominium associations, homeowners associations are being put in the position where they have to foreclose homes. If a homeowner cannot afford to pay their bank, a lot of times they also cannot afford to pay the association. So when an association forecloses, those foreclosures many times are handled by smaller local firms that can give the foreclosure more attention, and those go through rather quickly. You can see those happen anywhere from 6 months to a year. It just depends on what the association wants.
Mm-hmm.
When you see a bank foreclose, many times there are larger firms that are handling those in volume. And what I'm seeing, just personally from my perspective,
Right.
is procedurally it's typically taking, I would say, at least a year. And I have clients, I have some clients that have been in foreclosure for up to 3 years, 3.5 years. People will try and do loan workouts once they're in foreclosure, and they'll instruct their attorneys at that point not to push the property through a foreclosure sale until they can determine whether the homeowner qualifies for some type of assistance. So it can be anywhere. With a community association, they're typically much quicker.
Mm-hmm.
When it's a bank that's foreclosing, anywhere from a year up to maybe 3.5 years. Every case is different.
The people who listen into the show, it's quite a variation. It's, of course, real estate investors, real estate brokers, general public, and bankruptcy officials, bankruptcy attorneys, real estate media, government representatives, officials. I guess my question is, in that foreclosure area, because I'm trying to learn a little bit about it myself, but also try to get the nuances between state and state. At a foreclosure sale online in Palm Beach County, what are the terms of the deal? Because I know what they were prior to, but I'm not sure what they are now as far as online. What kind of deposit? How long do they have to put the rest of it up? Do you have that kind of information, Wally?
I don't have that available.
Okay.
A lot of times my paralegal will handle it procedurally.
Okay.
Once they go online, you do need to register online, and there is a required deposit. And then, a lot of times people can put in a person who has a judgment, a minimum bid.
Okay.
And they're pretty quick, and once people learn how to do them, they go pretty smoothly. Once you actually bid and prevail at a sale, the court will issue a certificate of sale, and then following that, ultimately will come the certificate of title, which is recorded in the public records and ultimately transfers the title to the winning bidder. A lot of times we're seeing the banks take the property back, although they're getting a little bit better about it. I'm seeing banks bid up to a certain amount and then stop bidding so that they can offload the property.
Well, let me tell you what happened in New England probably 20 years ago, because it's pretty interesting. It was normally just like what you're saying, and there'd be something in the newspaper by an attorney, and it would be in the legal notice that this would be coming up. It would be on the courthouse steps. Now it's online, but basically the foreclosure action is going to take place this time and that time, and what the terms are and all that kind of stuff. And the person who was being foreclosed on, went to the sale, and of course no one showed up except for the bank. And so the bank, went to its highest loan amount and then, bid it in. And then the person who was being foreclosed upon, got a judgment and said, hey, you owe this, and we'll kind of deal with you later. And what he said is, wait a minute, you didn't give a chance. You did not commercially advertise this, promote this, and so there was no chance for me to get a higher bid, to get somebody that would outbid the bank, and that is a mistake. And the guy sued the bank, and it turned out to be a really big law that came out. And what happened is that from then on, because of this ruling, number one, foreclosure auctions were actually not at the courthouse anymore, but they were on the property, and that there were professional auctioneers that were actually doing the sale rather than a court representative that may or may not have had any experience. And they have done that for the last 20 years. And then, to one more point, was the banks, just like you said, were saying, wait a minute, we don't want to bid up to our high amount. If there's somebody that's going to bid, close to it, we want out. We don't want this. And they were hampered by the fact that they at least thought they had to go to the full amount. And so there was either a new ruling or whatever that said to the banks, okay, this is the least amount that you can bid. You can't go under it. And it was like 70%. So if you had $1 million loan that was being foreclosed on, and you knew it wasn't worth $1 million, this is the bank talking, that you actually could go down as low as 700 and stop bidding, just hoping that somebody else would bid and get you out of it. You would take the hit if you were the bank. But it's interesting that the New England area, which the states are Maine and New Hampshire and Massachusetts, that adopted this 20, maybe even 25 years ago, and so I was interested when you said that the banks weren't bidding to the high amount.
There's correct. Two considerations I think that are relevant. The first is when you take title to a piece of property, there's documentary stamp tax on it.
Yep.
And there's transfer fees, and the lower the bid amount, the less the party who's taking title will pay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in the bank's best interest to bid as low as possible. If they're going to take title, it will help save them some costs.
Right.
The other thing is exactly what you said, is banks generally do not want to be in the real estate business, owning and selling property. They're primarily there in real estate to loan money. So wisely, they have been taking a look at what the property is actually valued at and what they may recover at a sale, and trying to bid in accordance with some consideration for what is in their best interest. So, you can pick up some properties out there in foreclosure at a better price. But I also see some inexperienced buyers have some real problems with that. There can be quite a few title issues out there, and some of the foreclosure work that is being done is very sloppy. Parties aren't being named. There could be tenants in possession that have rights, things along those lines. So it really is important if you're going to be purchasing a piece of property to make sure that you're not purchasing a nightmare and that you're getting clear title, and to do your due diligence before you actually spend the money. I see a lot of people. It's when you're buying real estate. The way I look at it, buying real estate is a major investment for just about everybody.
Yep.
And I see people that want to save a few bucks on the front end by not hiring a lawyer.
Yep.
And the next thing, I'll have a client sitting in my office who tried to save several $100s in the beginning.
Right.
Is now looking at a very, very expensive problem that's going to require a lawyer and quite a bit of work, and it could have been prevented if they had done their due diligence in the beginning. So I always encourage people if they don't have experience in the foreclosure arena to talk to an attorney before you buy, understand what the issues are, and be educated when you purchase. And it saves a lot of grief and a lot of expense to do it properly.
Well, Wally, I really thank you for calling in today. How can people get a hold of you, either by phone or email, website? Tell us a little bit about yourself and how people can contact you.
Sure. Our firm is called the Law Offices of Paul Burkhart, and we are in Palm Beach Gardens on Prosperity Farms Road. You can go to our website, which is www.paulburkhart.net. Our telephone number is 561-880-0155, and you can contact me directly. My email is wbaldwin@paulburkhart.net, and we're more than happy to speak with people and let them know if we feel there's something we can do to assist them and to answer any questions. And anybody's welcome to give us a call. We're always happy to talk with somebody.
Well, Wally, thank you so much for calling in on this Friday morning, and please give my best to Paul and Tara, and have a wonderful weekend.
I will. Thank you very much, Doug. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Take care.
Yep.
All right. That was Wally Baldwin from the Law Office of Paul Burkhart in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. We were talking about foreclosure sales and the process and what's happening in the market in Palm Beach County. It was interesting. He said that some of the real estate brokers were complaining there's not enough inventory in the $200,000 to $300,000, $400,000 area. I think that's a great sign that the market is turning. It's also, I think, a great sign that because things are getting better, that maybe we have bottomed out. No one has a crystal ball, but this is a great opportunity. You put your money in stocks, you don't know what's happening. You put your money in the bank, and you're getting just a very, very small return. And the mattress plan, doesn't help you at all. So real estate might be the real good thing that, if you can buy it right, and just like Wally had said, if you're new to this area and this arena, and it's always wise if you're making a real estate investment to get the help of an attorney. So anyway, thank you very much, Wally Baldwin from the Law Office of Paul Burkhart. In the second half hour, we're going to be talking more about the 14,000 government surplus properties. Fact that I'm going to be going up to Washington, D.C. next week. Looking forward to it. My CEO, Tommy Rowell, is going to be with me. Looking forward to it. Let's go to a break, and then we will be back talking about the properties. All right, we are back. You're listening to National Real Estate Auction Radio from beautiful St. Augustine, Florida. We just had Wally Baldwin on from Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. He's an attorney from the Law Office of Paul Burkhart. They do bankruptcy work. They do foreclosure work, regular title work, a lot of business work, and thank you, Wally and Paul, for getting involved and having a representative on the show. as I told you, I'm going up to Washington, D.C. We want to help as a professional give the decision makers input on these 14,000 government surplus properties and how that these properties are very, very difficult for taxpayers because they continually have cost that the American taxpayer has that burden and they continue to pay. And I just want to say Congressman Denham's office, he's from California, he had a lot of experience in the California venue trying to go after waste, government waste, and properties that were not being utilized well or underused or abandoned and would cost the taxpayers a lot of money, and he got involved in trying to help fix that problem. Then he got elected to Washington, D.C., and he has just been absolutely great. He's really shown that he's a leader, even though he's a freshman congressman. And so he's been up there and doing a fine job. I've got to meet him while he was up in Washington, D.C. Also, he came down to Miami because one of these properties is a courthouse in Miami. And I got a chance to sit and talk with him for, it must have been 30 minutes to find out his views. Had a chance to talk to him about my interest, my background in selling government surplus properties, and I've sold, I think the number is more than 8,000 government surplus properties in my career. And so very, very nice. Hopefully we're going to have a representative from his office call in soon. But he has really taken the leadership realm and said, okay, here's this property in Miami. And he was there holding a hearing, congressional hearing, with Congressman John Mica, who they work together a lot up in Washington, D.C., and just has done a phenomenal job. We've got the caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, Doug. It's Brett Manley. How you doing?
Brett, I was just singing the praise of your boss, Congressman Jeff Denham, and what he's done. Brett, tell us who you are and where you're from and what you do.
Sure thing, Doug. My name is Brett Manley. I'm the legislative director for Congressman Jeff Denham from California, Central Valley. We represent Fresno, Yosemite, Modesto area. I myself am also from California, and what I do, Doug, is I help create or manage Jeff's legislative initiatives and try to make them law. And we do a lot of work with GSA, as you know, and legislation designed to help sell buildings. And so excited to be back on the show talking to you. And we're just trying to move the goalposts here a little bit. Slow going, but we're making progress.
Well, tell us exactly what Congressman Denham has done on the passage of 1734. That's first of all, to sponsor a bill being a freshman. I mean, that's got to be tough. No one knows you, and yet the idea was so good that it got passed. So take us a little bit on how long that took, and I know it's just passed in the House and it needs to go to the Senate, but take us back a little bit and what gives Congressman Denham this leadership role and the fact that he knows so much about this. Give us a little background for Congressman Denham.
Sure. Well, he was in the state Senate for 8 years in California, and California is really, I guess, a lab for the major problems that the country sees.
Yep.
In that they also have problems with their public buildings, and he noticed that as a state senator, and one of the things he wanted to focus on was kind of selling some of these properties, San Quentin Prison. He noticed that, the federal government had a golf course, the state government had a golf course, things like that, as a state legislator really makes you mad. So he did a lot of that in his 8 years there, focused on the selling of properties. And so when he got to Congress, it was kind of a natural fit for him to ask the same questions about the federal government, and he found out, not surprisingly, that the federal government has the same problems. And so, as you mentioned, he, with a couple of industry folks, and we authored a bill, H.R. 1734, the Civilian Property Realignment Act, that we introduced in February, I want to say, of last year, maybe March. That would seek to create almost like a BRAC-like commission. I don't know if your listeners are familiar with the BRAC process.
They are not. So tell us what a BRAC commission is.
So BRAC was this thing instituted, base realignment, I can't remember what the A stands for, commission, where a group of advisors in the military would get together and decide, because the military was downsizing, they had to close some bases and move them around and consolidate and all these things. But every decision was political, because you're closing a community, really, when you close a military base. And so the BRAC commission would get together, they'd make recommendations, and then that's what how they would proceed. And they've gone through several rounds of BRAC. The most recent BRAC, I think, was in 2005. So we wanted to model ours off to that. Obviously, the federal government doesn't own entire communities like a military base, because military bases were not included in ours. But essentially, what you would have would be a commission of unelected people who were, subject to the whims of, needing to placate voters every 2 years,
right?
To get together and decide which federal buildings, and properties we needed to get rid of in order to consolidate the federal footprint. And because there's just a lot of waste out there, Doug. I mean, there's a lot of properties out there that taxpayers own and are kind of unaware that they own these things.
They are unaware.
That they just, a lot of them just collect dust, and they cost taxpayers billions of dollars. I mean, GAO estimated that we spend over $1 billion a year on unneeded or excess property. And so, what we wanted to do is say, okay, well, we're just going to get, because you get these legislators who say, well, yeah, we'll sell all these buildings, there's just nothing in my district. And so we wanted to get some folks together and say, well, this is what's going to happen. And, we were fortunate enough to have this pass Congress earlier this year in February. We're still working with the Senate. There's a companion bill over there sponsored by Senator Brown from Massachusetts, so we've been working with him very closely, and hopefully we can get it done here by the end of the year. But, it's not certain, but we remain optimistic.
Are there other bills from the Senate that are similar that might come out of this? Because I know Washington is all about negotiations and compromise, but this is a win-win situation for the taxpayers, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty a little bit. But are there other bills out there that maybe would work easier, or what do you think?
Yeah, well, Senator Carper from Maryland has legislation as well, different than our bill and Brown's bill, in that they would beef up the Federal Property Council. Our opinion is that that's not the preferred way to go, and that the Real Property Council already exists, and you're really just kind of giving more authority to the people who have created the problem in the first place.
Okay.
However, Senator Carper is in the majority over on the Senate side, so there's a bit of compromise that needs to go on, and there's somewhat of an agreement, a loose agreement, at least right now, nothing officially on paper, between Brown and Carper about some compromise legislation that we're trying to move forward. And so, if something like that were to come out of the Senate, my boss would be more than amenable to looking at some of the things that they wanted to add. We don't want to be, we don't want to let the perfect be the enemy of the good over here. Any progress it's good for the taxpayer. If we can get something signed into law, you can always make changes later, tweak around the edges.
Yep.
Really what we want to do is just get the framework in place for this, because it's important. It's one of those really easy ways, you would think, to save money.
Well, it is, and give us a couple of examples. I've got them off the top of my head, but I love it when someone else talks about it, because I talk about it all the time. Tell me some of the examples of properties that are collecting dust that are costing the American taxpayer. Sure.
Well, we have a bunch here, as you would imagine, in the nation's capital. The Cotton Annex down the street from me right now, it's where they used to have the cotton trade, and they obviously don't do that anymore. So the building's empty. It's just sitting there. $50 million estimated. Old post office,
15
blocks from the Capitol, has been $6 million a year.
Okay.
You know, they finally figured out a way to rent that out to a luxury hotel. Donald Trump will be taking over the building in 2 years, and that will finally make a return for the taxpayer. Georgetown West Heating Plant, you know, $15 million property sitting there vacant in Georgetown. You know, and that's just here. You got properties all across the country. You got, in L.A., we have vacant properties. There's a vacant lot in Los Angeles that's sitting there at $25 million. You know, you have some of the most valuable property off the freeway at over $1 billion. The L.A. Veterans Campus. And then, you know, Doug, as you know, we were down in Miami at a vacant courthouse. You were gracious enough to come out. We had a hearing down there. And, we built this, the federal government built this nice, shiny new courthouse and, vacated the one right across the street. It just sits there, empty.
Wow.
And so these things, a lot of times taxpayers don't even know, and they're just sitting there empty. You drive by a warehouse, you drive by an empty building that's boarded up, and you always wonder, well, who owns that? Chances are it's the federal government.
Well, yes, I was there. Actually, we did interviews for the radio show down in the courtroom, which was pretty cool. But that courtroom had been vacant for 4 or 5 years, costing the American taxpayer $1.2 million each year. And, although it was clean, you could smell the mold. And this is what happens when you have properties that just languish and are abandoned, and they cost a lot of money that the American taxpayer, you're right, they have no idea. And how would they? They would not know, because they're expecting that when they pay their tax that there's people in place that are doing their job and figuring out what to do with these properties next. And I think it's human nature that we just don't work on this quick enough, and that it's just too easy year and year and year is, okay, we haven't really decided on this property, so let's just put it on again, and we'll continue to paying the cost. And in Miami, that courtroom again is $1.2 million. And I'm just so pleased that Congressman Denham and also Congressman Micah was there, and they are strong advocates of this and selling the properties, and I'm just, my hat's off in that area to these two gentlemen who have taken a lot of time and effort. I know they were down in Miami on one Friday, and the next Friday they're flying to L.A. to do the same thing. And I think what they're trying to do is get the message out to the public through the media that, man, there's properties out there like this all over the country, and we need to do a push.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's crazy, and I just appreciate your efforts. The other thing I want to talk about is that these properties that just sit there as abandoned properties, there's no tax that is being paid by the government to the municipalities. So that hurts the area. That's number one. Number two, because it's abandoned and nothing's going on, that usually attracts vagrants, it usually attracts a higher crime rate, and that's not good for the communities. When there is a vacant building like that, it goes down in value year and year and year, and that affects the area. And again, I've been in real estate for 25, 30 years, and I can tell you that it affects everybody in that area. It affects the dry cleaner that used to have business and doesn't have anymore. The restaurants, the office place. It affects everybody, and so the longer that nothing is happening, it's really affecting to a detrimental effect to these businesses. But if you sold that courthouse, if you sold that post office up in the area that you're talking about, the cotton the cotton mill, a cotton office building, and a new person came up, private sector, that would actually make the area better, because he's or she is going to hire new people, hire new contractors, employ new people, goods and services. And by bringing that business, and you mentioned Trump, who is going to do something with the post office, which is wonderful, but that affects all the other area businesses, and it's like a community development grant, really, because it just helps. And now the new buyer is paying taxes to the municipality, which really helps. And so it's a win-win, and again, I really appreciate your hard work to really get out there and push. And I've seen you on CNN next to Congressman Denham. You looked really good. You looked really professional. It was nice to see you on the on TV. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week, and thank you so much for all your efforts. How can people get a hold of you? And I know Congressman Denham has a weekly update that he can send out on an email and does a fantastic job. How does that happen, Brett?
Sure, yeah, appreciate it, Doug. And before I get into that, we just wanted to thank you, for all the efforts that you've put into, kind of highlighting our legislation and bringing attention to this issue. Really without folks, out in the community, in the private sector, bringing attention to this, it'd be really hard for us to make any ground. And so, we appreciate all the effort that you're doing, and, I thank you for having me on so many times in the past few months, and, appreciate you coming out to the Miami hearing, and I'm glad you got enjoyment out of that.
Yes.
For your listeners, we have, obviously they can go to our website, denham.house.gov, that's DENHAM, and sign up for our newsletter. We send it out weekly. You can get news about, what's going on with the bill. You can call our office and talk to me anytime you want, shoot me an email, whatever it is. But that's denham.house.gov, and folks can just go on there and sign up to keep informed what's going on. I'd be remiss if we didn't mention, Chairman Micah has been a great advocate for this, and is from your home state of Florida.
Yes.
And my boss just introduced a new bill to regulate GSA, or to change GSA, in wake of a lot of these scandals. And one of the things we included in there was a requirement that they reduce the size of their federal footprint. So we're trying to hit them on both sides now. We moved that through subcommittee last week before they headed out of town. And so we're going to be pushing that as well, to try and force GSA to reduce the size of the federal footprint. We're still making strides, but again, if folks want to stay informed, they can always email us or come on to the website, denham.house.gov.
What is the new bill that you're proposing?
Well, Chairman Micah is the chief sponsor, and Mr. Denham is the lead co-sponsor, and essentially it's a GSA reform bill. GSA, for your listeners who aren't familiar, is Maine federal property manager. Really, they manage. They're kind of like an operating officer for the federal government. They manage our supplies with the Federal Acquisition Service, and then they manage our public buildings with the Public Building Service. And so one of the things we wanted to highlight was, they've been doing a lot. They've been in the news a lot lately, right, with the conferences and all that. So, one of the things we have jurisdiction over, in addition to the public buildings, is that activity. So we're kind of trying to make some reforms there, and then while we're at it, we're going to come in and say, hey, you got to sell some of these buildings. It's about time that you do, your job. And so it's the Public Building Reform Act, H.R. 6430. We got it through subcommittee, so we're going to go to full committee hopefully when we get back from the election.
Right.
And we're just moving the ball down the field one step at a time.
Brett, thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate it, and hopefully I can get a chance to see you next week.
Sure thing, Doug. Appreciate it.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right.
All right, that was Brett Manley, who's the legislative director for Congressman Jeff Denham from California. We've got another caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Doug.
Allison, how are you doing? And thank you so much for calling. Tell us who you are and where you're from.
My name's Allison Marchetti. I'm here in Moultrie, Georgia, and I'm doing very well, thank you.
Oh, good. You are kind of like the the person everybody calls, and you kind of forward everything, and you're also the executive producer of this radio show from Rowell Auctions, and so I want to thank you so much for all of your time and effort. But let's get right down to the nitty-gritty. You've been really busy. You've had, I know I saw in the newspaper that you just sold more than 100 properties this week in Valdosta, Georgia, homes, and very, very busy. But you've got other stuff coming up. Tell us what's happening.
Sure. We have quite a few more absolute auctions coming up, so definitely worth going to the website at rowellauctions.com. October the 2nd, we'll have 10 assets in South Georgia. On the same day, we'll actually have a few more. We have 50 assets in Columbus, Georgia for Habitat for Humanity. They're also all absolute. On the same day, we'll have 23 more in Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. And then we have another absolute on the same day for 10 assets in Georgia and Florida, all on the website. And then October the 5th, we're going to have a beautiful 3-bedroom, 3-bath home on Big Bear Lake in California. Additionally, on the same day, another beautiful home, 1-bedroom, 1-bath on Big Bear Lake in California also. And they are both absolute, and they are gorgeous homes.
So California, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, I know that your boss and I are working on something in the New England area right now to send in a proposal to the bank, and so I just want to thank you for all your hard work. You mentioned the word absolute, and of course I know what absolute is, but for the general public, what is an absolute auction?
It means that it will go regardless of price to the highest bidder. They will not refuse.
Okay, so if it's an absolute auction, it's going to be sold no matter what. And so if you're a buyer, this is like a dream come true, because you know if you do your homework and you bid to your highest amount, and it is the high bid, it will sell. You will have the chance to buy it. The bank doesn't have an A or nay at that point. It is the thing to do in absolute auctions, and it really helps the buyers, because they want to make sure that they want to, if they're going to take the time and effort to buy something, they're going to go out there and have a chance to bid and then actually procure the property. It's also very good for the seller, Allison, because the lure of the bargain is big in an auction. And so if these buyers all of a sudden, hey, it's absolute, well, there's going to be more bidding, there's going to be more attention, there's going to be more action, and that's what you as a bank or a government agency want to make sure, that there's people that are interested in the property. Sellers don't always like the final price, I will tell you that. But if there's a whole bunch of bidding and it was well marketed, they know that they can go back to their bosses and say, hey, we did the very best we can. We were hoping for X, but we got Y, but it was a lot better than, the alternative of just letting it sit there and rot and devalue.
I have seen a few go the other direction also, though, being absolute.
Okay, say it again.
I said I have seen some go the other direction with absolute, where they know that it's absolute, and if they don't bid now, that they will not receive the property.
Yes.
And sometimes it helps with the bidding.
Yeah, it helps big time, And
if they don't bid now, they're not going to receive the property.
There is no tomorrow. You can't go to the bank tomorrow and say, hey, I've decided that I really do want this property. I only bid, $500,000 yesterday, but now I'll go $510,000. And an absolute auction can't do that. You've got to do your homework up front, and you've got to make the decision. So that's good. So tell me again, it's Florida, Alabama,
Georgia, California.
Tell us about those California properties real quick.
They are on Big Bear Lake in California.
Okay.
They are custom log-style mountain retreats. They have lake views. They have tongue and groove on the walls, vaulted ceilings, granite counters, stainless steel appliances. They're just absolutely gorgeous.
Wow.
I can't even describe them as beautiful as the photos are. I recommend going to the website.
Well, you are amazing that you knew all that. No wonder you are the head person to go to. I thank you for your time. Tell us again the website to go to see all these properties and the telephone number.
It's RowellAuctions.com, RowellAuctions.com, and it's 800-323-8388.
Very good. Allison, thank you for all your hard work, and have a great weekend.
You too. Take care, Doug.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, what a great show. We thank Palm Beach County, Florida, for calling in. We thank Washington, D.C. to call in, and Georgia for calling in. We are going to be coming back next week. I will be in Washington. Take care.